I'm a 19-year-old girl who lives in Florida with my mum and my cat, Oscar. Our house is a decent size, but for 2 people and a cat, it's massive. When I was a child though, we used to live in a 5-bedroom house, Victorian era, in New Orleans. The story I'm about to tell you comes mainly from my mother's mouth, with some broken memories that I can remember. At the time of these events, I was 4 years old and my mother would have been in her early 30s. It was a few months before I was due to start school, and as my mother tells me, she was making a particular effort to play with me more before I started school. We were in my room playing with this really old doll's house that my mum had since she was a child. At dinner time, my mother went downstairs to go make us sandwiches and juice and left me playing on my own. When she returned, I had pulled up another wooden stool and was in what my mother described as a detailed conversation with the nothingness above the stool. Apparently I didn't break out of this trance until my mother sat beside me with the sandwiches. She shook it off as a child's imaginary friend, as I remember at that house I had a few. I would often run crying to my mother about the old man who would stand in the doorway of my room stopping me from going in, or the little boy who would poke his head round the sofa with his scary face. This concerned my mum, as these aren't common child imaginary friends. There was one friend, however, that my mum said truly scared her. I have vague memories of Matilda, and to a 4-year-old me, there was nothing off about her. As I remember, she was 8 years old and always wore the same vintage lace bell dress. It wasn't until I was 11 and in Florida that my mother told me Matilda wasn't real. I remember I'd often ask if she'd like tea at my house, and she'd always politely decline, and whenever my mother would come into my room she would hide under my bed, and when I explained this to my mum she would look almost frightened. When I asked Matilda why she would hide, she would always just say she wouldn't understand. I didn't ask my mum what Matilda meant, but neither me nor my mother can remember what she said. So, once again, this is according to my mother, and one day in early October, I was playing in the garden with Matilda when my mother shouted me in. My mother maintains that I was often, if not always, well behaved as a child, but apparently I turned to look at her and screamed "no" at the top of my voice. My mother, obviously taken back, stormed into the garden and grabbed me. My mother said I gave her the most demonic look and hissed at her as she dragged me in. And apparently I told her that if she didn't let go, Matilda would hurt her. This obviously scared her and I was sent to my room. Later that night, after I had been put to bed at about 11 p.m, I came downstairs and went to my mother, who was sat on the couch. What I said to my mother, she says, still gives her nightmares. Matilda told me she wanted me to stay and that the only way that she would be my friend is if we got rid of my mother. Needless to say, after this, I spent years, up until the age of 8, explaining to the therapist that this was what my friend had said. After all, I thought she was real, and being such a young child, the doctors trod carefully around. The doctors put it down to childhood trauma due to, as ridiculous as it sounds, being attacked by ducks when I was 2. Unfortunately, when I was 7, my mother lost her job, and due to the size of the house and Matilda, my mother decided to move for a change of scenery, far away. The last thing I remember of Matilda is when we were about to pull out of the driveway one last time. I never looked back, and it wasn't so cheesy that she was staring at me out the window. No. Matilda was stood outside the car, looking angry, yet crying, trying to open the opposite backseat door as we pulled away. She just stood there and never looked up at us. Reflecting on this and telling my friends, I realised I should have realised something was off with Matilda. Her old attire, the way she'd hide from my mum, or that I never saw her eat or go home at the end of the day. Rather, she would just vanish, and most oddly, the fact that in the 3 to 4 years I knew her, she was always 8. I also never saw Mathilda after moving, and I'm convinced she was real, just like the old man and the boy with the scary face. Hey guys, creepy story. So it's only one story today. As I say, I'm on holiday. Do comment, do like, and do subscribe. Peace.
Huh?